Americans eat more than 11 pounds of chocolate per person every single year. The chocolate business is worth billions. But not all chocolate is created equal. Some of the most popular brands sitting on American shelves are packed with ingredients that should worry anyone who actually reads labels. And the ethical issues behind how cocoa is sourced can be even more disturbing. Americans consume around 11 pounds of chocolate annually. Tonight, we're exposing 8 chocolate brands you need to avoid. These aren't obscure imports. These are major names found in grocery stores, big box retailers, and gas stations all across the country. And the problems range from toxic heavy metals to child labor in the supply chain to chocolate that's barely chocolate at all. The chocolate industry operates with shockingly little oversight. Testing and consumer investigations have reported concerning levels of lead and cadmium in products marketed to families. Child labor remains a serious issue on cocoa farms in West Africa, where much of the world's cocoa comes from. And American standards still allow products with minimal real cocoa to be labeled and sold like they're the real thing. These 8 brands represent some of the worst offenders. They lean on the cheapest possible ingredients. They source from supply chains that have been repeatedly flagged for labor abuse. They load products with sugar and chemical additives. They process chocolate so heavily that any natural benefits get erased. And they market aggressively to kids, even when contamination concerns are part of the conversation. Stick around until the end, because brand number 8 has the highest heavy metal contamination reported in major testing. Levels so concerning that regular consumption could pose real health risks, especially for children. But before we expose these brands, hit that subscribe button and join Frugal Finds for you, because the chocolate industry depends on customers not reading ingredient lists and not asking questions about sourcing. We're revealing what they hope you never learn. Brand 1, Hershey's Milk Chocolate. Lead and cadmium concerns. Hershey's is one of America's most iconic chocolate brands. It's also one of the names that keeps showing up in heavy metal testing conversations. Consumer-focused testing has reported that certain Hershey's milk chocolate products contain lead and cadmium, at levels that can exceed California's Prop 65 maximum allowable daily dose levels for regular consumption, depending on serving size and frequency. Lead is a neurotoxin, and there is no truly safe level of lead exposure. Even small amounts can contribute to developmental issues in children, including learning problems, reduced IQ, and behavioral challenges. Cadmium can build up in the body over time, concentrating in the kidneys and bones, and potentially contributing to organ damage with repeated exposure. No safe level of lead exposure. The contamination is often linked to 2 main pathways. Lead exposure can happen during processing and manufacturing, including environmental contact and equipment or dust exposure. Cadmium is commonly absorbed by cocoa plants from soil, and once it's in the cocoa, it can't simply be washed out during processing. Here's the part most people don't realize. Mass-market brands often rely on bulk cocoa sourced at the lowest possible cost, and in regions where soil cadmium is higher, the risk rises. Premium chocolate makers frequently screen and reject batches that don't meet strict internal targets. But companies chasing the cheapest cocoa tend to accept what is available because price matters more than purity. And Hershey's has faced criticism for fighting warning label policies instead of leading the industry towards stronger testing and transparency. When a company spends more energy resisting tighter standards than protecting consumers, that should tell you something. They prioritize profits, not safety. Hershey's milk chocolate also barely feels like real chocolate if you look closely at what it's built from. Cocoa content is relatively low. The ingredient backbone is usually sugar, dairy, and added fats. The chocolate experience often comes from processing and flavor design more than rich cocoa. You're eating a candy bar that contains chocolate instead of a chocolate product built around cocoa. And then there's the child labor issue. Multiple investigations over the years have documented child labor risks across West African cocoa supply chains that feed the biggest chocolate companies on Earth. Hershey's has made public commitments to address it, But critics argue progress has been far too slow because solving it requires paying cocoa farmers enough to hire adults at fair wages and maintaining real verification systems. Brand 2. Nestle chocolate products. The child labor controversy. Nestle makes Crunch Bars, Baby Ruth, Butterfinger, and a long list of chocolate products sold all over the United States. And Nestle has faced some of the most serious, most public child labor allegations in the entire chocolate industry. Lawsuits and investigations have alleged that major cocoa buyers knowingly purchased cocoa from supply chains tied to child labor in the Ivory Coast and surrounding regions. Children as young as 12 have been reported working in dangerous conditions, harvesting cocoa, carrying heavy loads, and handling sharp tools with little protection. Children as young as 12 reported harvesting cocoa. Nestle has made promises for decades about eliminating child labor. The problem is that promises are not the same thing as proof. Investigations have continued finding child labor risks linked to cocoa sourcing in the region, even after years of corporate statements and sustainability programs. And when legal cases get dismissed on technical grounds, it doesn't erase the moral issue. It just means accountability gets delayed and the system stays the same. Now here's where it gets worse for consumers. Heavy metal testing conversations don't stop with Hershey's. Consumer testing has also reported lead and cadmium concerns across multiple mass-market chocolate products, including items marketed heavily to kids. Bright packaging, cartoon mascots, fun shapes. The exact products are aimed at the most vulnerable group. Kids are the ones most at risk from heavy metal exposure. And quality-wise, many Nestle chocolate products are built on the same formula: minimal cocoa, maximum sugar, heavy processing. Take the Crunch Bar. It's mostly rice cereal and sugar, with a thin chocolate coating designed to stretch cocoa as far as possible. It's engineered candy, not quality chocolate. If you want more label breakdowns like this, subscribe to Frugal Finds for you right now. Because the biggest brands survive on trust, and trust gets expensive when you stop reading what's in the wrapper. Brand 3, Mars Chocolate. M&M's, Snickers, and the additive overload. Mars makes M&M's, Snickers, Milky Way, and Twix. These are some of the most popular candy products in America. They're also some of the most heavily processed. For M&M's, the ingredient list can include multiple artificial colors, including blue 1, blue 2, red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6. These dyes are synthetic and often derived from petroleum sources. And studies and health discussions have repeatedly raised concerns about artificial dyes and hyperactivity in children. Some countries require warning labels on certain dye combinations. The U.S. generally does not. Artificial dyes have been linked in studies to hyperactivity concerns. Then there's the chocolate itself. The coating on many candy shells is engineered to be stable, shiny, and shelf-friendly. That usually means more sugar, more processing, and less real cocoa character. The primary ingredient is often sugar, not cocoa. Snickers brings its own issues: corn syrup, added sugars, oils, flavor engineering. And while many brands have adjusted formulas over time, consumers still see ingredient patterns that look more like a chemistry lab than a food label. Mars products also rely on palm oil and palm kernel derivatives in certain formulas, which ties into environmental concerns. Palm production has been linked to deforestation pressures in parts of Indonesia and Malaysia, threatening wildlife habitats. Brands may claim sustainable palm, but verification is hard, and progress is uneven. The devastation continues. And yes, heavy metal testing discussions have also included Mars products. Lead and cadmium concerns can show up across chocolate categories, because cocoa sourcing is the common denominator. If you eat these products constantly, the exposure changes from rare treat to daily habit. Regular consumption raises real health questions. Mars has also been linked to ongoing supply chain concerns in West Africa, where child labor risks remain widely documented. Again, the issue is systemic. Cheap cocoa keeps the shelves full, and the system keeps children trapped in the labor pipeline. Brand 4, Russell Stover. Low-grade ingredients, wearing a fancy box. Russell Stover is one of the biggest boxed chocolate sellers in America. Heart-shaped boxes, holiday assortments, gift-ready presentation, and prices that feel like a deal. But the ingredient choices often scream cost-cutting. Russell Stover commonly uses artificial vanilla instead of real vanilla. That vanilla flavor can be created from lab-synthesized compounds, sometimes derived from petrochemical pathways or industrial byproducts. It's cheap, it's consistent, and it's not what most people imagine when they think they're buying a premium chocolate gift, eating chemical-derived flavoring marketed as premium. And the chocolate coating itself often contains minimal cocoa. Many products rely on sugar, palm kernel oils, whey, and emulsifiers. Real chocolate traditionally depends on cocoa butter for that smooth melt. When brands swap cocoa butter for cheaper vegetable fats, you're not really dealing with true chocolate anymore. You're looking at compound coating, not real chocolate. The cream centers can be even worse. Corn syrup, sugar, oils, stabilizers, preservatives. The texture people expect can be manufactured without real cream, without rich cocoa, and without quality ingredients. It's designed to last, not to taste incredible. Russell Stover also uses soy lecithin as an emulsifier, and while lecithin is widely used, heavy reliance often signals that the formula is compensating for lower cocoa butter content or lower quality cocoa. They're patching a weak foundation. Sourcing transparency is another red flag. Brands in this category typically don't lead with verified ethical supply chain commitments. They prioritize price, not labor accountability. And boxed chocolates often contain preservatives to extend shelf life far beyond what fresh, quality chocolate would need. That means those boxes can sit in warehouses and stores for months, waiting for someone to buy the gift. Fresh chocolate shouldn't need to survive like canned food. Brand 5, Palmer. Not legally chocolate. Palmer is the company behind those holiday-shaped chocolate bunnies, Santa figures, and seasonal candy trays. You see them everywhere: drugstores, discount stores, end caps, holiday aisles. And here's the key detail most shoppers miss. Many Palmer products are labeled chocolatey or chocolate-flavored, not chocolate. That's not a cute marketing twist. It's a legal dodge, because many of these products contain little to no cocoa butter. Contains zero cocoa butter in many chocolatey items. Look at the ingredient pattern on those holiday figures. Sugar first, then palm kernel oil, then dairy powders. Cocoa shows up later, often, as a minor ingredient used for color and a hint of flavor. That means you're eating sugar and vegetable oil formed into a holiday shape, with just enough cocoa to trick your taste buds. This is compound candy, not real chocolate. And children are the primary target. Parents buy bunnies and Santas, thinking they're giving kids a fun treat. But kids are basically chewing sweetened oil. The cute shape distracts from the label. Palmer also leans on artificial flavors, because real chocolate flavor should come from cocoa. If the cocoa content is low, the flavor has to be manufactured. Artificial flavoring replaces real cocoa. Ethical sourcing commitments are also minimal. Brands built at the lowest price point don't spend extra to ensure fair wages and verified labor practices. They buy cheap cocoa. That's the business model. Brand 6, Whitman's Sampler. Old chocolate and mystery fillers. Whitman's Sampler has been around since 1912. For a lot of people, it's nostalgic. For others, it's the default gift box you grab when you're out of time. But Whitman's quality has declined over time as ownership and cost priorities shifted. These boxes can sit on shelves for months, sometimes far longer than people realize. Preservatives help extend shelf life, but preservatives can't preserve flavor. Chocolate degrades. Oils go stale. Fillings lose their character. By the time you eat some Whitman's chocolates, they may have been sitting around for 6 months or more, sitting in stores for months or longer. The coatings are often compound style, using vegetable fats instead of cocoa butter. That's why the texture can feel waxy. Real cocoa butter melts smoothly. Compound coating melts like a candle. Cream centers often rely on corn syrup, sugar, oils, and artificial flavors. Fruit centers taste like fruit because of flavor chemicals, not fruit. Nut centers use the cheapest nuts, in the smallest amounts, because profit margins drive the formula. Everything is built to minimize cost. Whitman's also uses artificial colors in certain varieties. Pastel fillings, bright fruit colors. It's all designed to look premium while covering up cheap ingredients. The gold packaging sets expectations that the product can't meet, and sourcing transparency is basically absent. When a brand won't tell you where its cocoa comes from, it's usually because price is the priority, not ethical proof. Brand 7, Ghirardelli, premium price. Mid-grade reality. Ghirardelli positions itself as a premium American chocolate. The San Francisco identity, the fancier wrapper, the slightly higher prices. It makes people assume it's automatically cleaner and higher quality. But heavy metal testing conversations have included Ghirardelli, too. Reports have shown lead and cadmium concerns at levels comparable to cheaper brands in certain products. That means the price tag doesn't necessarily buy you a cleaner supply chain. Premium. Prices do not guarantee lower contamination. Ghirardelli also adds sugar heavily, even in products marketed as dark chocolate. Dark chocolate should lean on cocoa flavor. When sugar is doing the heavy lifting, it often means the cocoa is lower grade, more bitter, or more aggressively processed. And soy lecithin can be used more than necessary, another sign of formula engineering and cost cutting. Higher quality chocolate often needs less help to come together smoothly. Excess lecithin can signal a cheaper build. Sourcing is also complicated. Cocoa from West Africa is common across the industry, and the child labor risk remains. Brands may claim sustainable programs, but independent audits and investigations have repeatedly found that certification alone doesn't guarantee child labor is eliminated. Enforcement is inconsistent. Verification is difficult, and the incentives don't change unless farmers are paid more. Branding can't fix a broken system. And yes, Ghirardelli is owned by Lindt, but products made for the American market can follow American ingredient standards. That doesn't automatically match what you'd get from European-made chocolate. Brand 8, Hershey's Special Dark, the highest heavy metal concern in reported testing. Hershey's Special Dark is marketed like it's a smarter choice. Dark chocolate, higher cocoa content, a healthier vibe. But consumer testing reports have flagged it as one of the worst options from a heavy metal standpoint. In Consumer Reports testing discussions, a single-ounce serving of certain dark chocolate products, including Hershey's Special Dark, has been reported to contain lead and cadmium levels that exceed California Prop 65 daily limits by significant margins. The highest heavy metal contamination was reported in major testing. Here's why dark chocolate can be worse. Heavy metals tend to concentrate in cocoa solids. Milk chocolate has more dairy and sugar and less cocoa, mass. Dark chocolate has more cocoa solids. So, if the cocoa source is contaminated, the darker bar can carry more of the metals. The very thing that makes it healthier on paper can make it riskier in reality. Children and pregnant women should be especially cautious with dark chocolate products flagged in heavy metal testing discussions. Lead exposure during development can contribute to permanent neurological harm. Cadmium exposure can build up over time and is linked to kidney stress and bone issues. The risks can outweigh the antioxidant talking points. And critics argue that companies have known about these contamination issues for years. Instead of aggressively cleaning up sourcing, screening, and transparency, the industry often fights warning labels and shifts responsibility to consumers. They want you to keep buying, quietly. The cocoa sourcing is also tied to the same West African supply chain concerns around child labor. Promises exist, but meaningful change requires higher cocoa prices and real verification. And taste-wise, a quality dark chocolate should be complex, smooth, and rich. Hershey's Special Dark is often described as bitter and chalky, which tells you what kind of cocoa and processing you're dealing with. Poor flavor plus great concern equals the worst combo. Now that you know which chocolate brands to avoid, what should you buy instead? Better options exist, but they usually require spending a little more, and choosing brands that actually invest in quality and ethics. Better options require slightly more spending. Look for fair trade certification when possible. Fair trade standards are designed to reduce exploitation, improve wages, and limit child labor risk. It's not perfect, but it's a better guardrail than trust us. Choose organic chocolate when you can. Organic certification restricts synthetic pesticide use, which can help reduce certain contamination pathways. Organic farming systems also tend to improve soil and environmental practices, which can reduce additional risks over time. Buy European chocolate brands when possible. European regulations and standards around labeling, additives, and certain contaminants are often stricter than American practices. Products made for European markets are frequently cleaner and simpler. And if you want a specific brand built around ethics, Tony's Chocolonely is a Dutch company founded to fight modern slavery in cocoa. They pay higher prices, push traceability, and build their entire identity around forced labor prevention. Alter Eco is another brand known for ethical sourcing and organic ingredients. Many consumers prefer the flavor, and testing discussions have often shown lower concerns compared to the worst mass market products. Equal Exchange is worker-focused and cooperative-driven, paying fair prices directly to farmers, and building a business model that benefits producers, not just corporate shareholders. Worker-owned systems create fairer pay. Divine Chocolate is partially owned by cocoa farmers, which helps align incentives so farmers benefit from the success of the chocolate they grow. Endangered species. Chocolate is known for donating a portion of profits to conservation and leaning into ethical sourcing commitments, with quality that competes with premium brands. And if you absolutely must buy American mass-market chocolate, consumer testing discussions have sometimes shown that Dove and Lindt can land lower than Hershey's or certain Nestle products in contamination rankings, depending on the product tested. They're not perfect, but they can be a better pick than the worst offenders. Also, read ingredient lists, like your health depends on it. Avoid products loaded with artificial colors, artificial flavors, and partially hydrogenated oils. Choose chocolate where cocoa and cocoa butter show up early on the ingredient list, instead of sugar and vegetable oils dominating the formula. And if you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe to Frugal Finds for you right now, because the candy aisle is full of traps, and the labels are designed to confuse you. The 8 chocolate brands we exposed tonight are eaten by millions of Americans who have no idea what they're really consuming. These brands raise concerns around heavy metal contamination, child labor risk in cocoa sourcing, artificial ingredients, and products that barely qualify as real chocolate. Millions consume without knowing the truth. Hershey's milk chocolate has been flagged for lead and cadmium concerns. Nestle carries some of the most serious child labor allegations in the industry. Mars products are loaded with artificial dyes and additives. Russell Stover uses artificial flavoring, low cocoa content, and compound coatings. Palmer often isn't legally chocolate at all. Whitman's sells stale compound chocolate in premium-looking packaging. Ghirardelli charges premium prices while still showing up in contamination conversations. And Hershey's Special Dark has been reported as one of the highest heavy metal concerns in major consumer testing. Now you know which chocolate brands to avoid and why. You know to look for fair trade and organic certification. You know that many European products are made under stricter standards. And you know that paying slightly more can mean chocolate that's cleaner, simpler, and less tied to exploitation. If this video changed how you think about chocolate, hit that subscribe button and stick with Frugal Finds for you. The chocolate industry depends on customers not reading labels and not questioning sourcing. We expose what they hide. Industry depends on customer ignorance. What chocolate brand were you buying? Drop it in the comments. And tell us if you're switching after learning what's really behind these wrappers. Next time you're in the chocolate aisle, you'll read labels differently. You'll understand what chocolatey actually means. You'll know why some chocolate is so cheap. You'll recognize artificial colors for what they are. And you'll see the difference between a treat and a trap. chocolate can be a reasonable treat when you choose brands that prioritize quality, safety, and ethical sourcing. But the 8 brands we expose tonight prioritize profit over everything else. Millions of families deserve to know what they're really buying. The chocolate you choose matters for your health, for children working in cocoa fields, and for the environment. Make informed choices. Support companies doing it right, and stop rewarding companies cutting every corner just to maximize profit.